Здравствуйте, дорогие ребята! Дистанционная образовательная программа, по которой мы начинаем занятия, это замечательная возможность не только попрактиковаться в восприятии английской речи, но и узнать много интересного. Программа «Обо всем на английском» Центра «Радость» познакомит вас с интересными фактами из истории мировой культуры. Ваш английский лексикон будет расширяться под звуки классической музыки и в знакомстве с шедеврами мирового искусства. Будет хорошо, если в ходе занятия вы начнете повторять как знакомые, так и новые для вас слова, фразы и выражения. Занятия составлены так, что для этого у вас будут все возможности. И еще несколько слов о правилах участия в проекте. 2 раза в месяц по воскресеньям вы будете получать ссылку на новое видеозанятие, которое можно смотреть в любое удобное время. Главное, во время просмотра не забывайте регистрироваться в анкете Google формы, ссылка на которую находится в описании ролика. Видеозанятия разделены на циклы. После просмотра каждого цикла из 4-5 занятий у вас появляется возможность потренироваться в прохождении тестирования на английском языке, повторить знание новых слов, терминов, выражений, ответить на вопросы на английском языке. Тестирование можно проходить трижды для достижения наилучшего результата. Пройдя тесты всех 4 модулей программы, вы получите итоговый сертификат «A Fencer of Beauty», что значит «ценитель прекрасного». Итак, прямо сейчас найдите в описании видеоролика, который смотрите, ссылку на анкету Google формы. Кликните по ней и заполните ячейки. А сейчас начнем наше путешествие в мир английского языка. So, dear friends, an exciting journey into the world of art and creativity is waiting for you. Good afternoon, young music lovers! I received a lot of emails after the workshop on making a drum with our own hands. These are such amazing instruments the kids have made, and all of them have already received their presents. And we continue our acquaintance with musical instruments. Today we are going to visit Russian folk musical instruments. The first Russian folk musical instruments appeared a long time ago. We can find out from paintings, handwritten brochures and the books what instruments our ancestors played. Some instruments have been found during archaeological excavations, and now there is no doubt that they were indeed widespread in Russia. Our ancestors knew how to make simple instruments which were passed down through the generations. The very first Russian percussion musical instruments were treshyotka, drums, spoons, tambourine and drava, which could be used to play the rhythm of a song or a dance. Ложки is a type of Russian percussion instrument that consists of 2 wooden spoons. In the 19th century, spoons were used in choirs and folk music orchestras. Those musical spoons are made of wood that is harder than what regular spoons are made of. They also usually have longer handles, and the lathe has a polished surface. There are various techniques to playing the ложки. Ложки players can play a set of 2, 3 or even 4 spoons to produce different pitches. They can perform solo, accompanied by singing and dancing, or played with other instruments. The treshyotka is a type of Russian percussion instrument that means rattle. This unusual-looking instrument makes the sound of cracking and hand clapping. It's made of a set of 10 to 30 thin oak slats that are threaded together by a tough string. To play the treshyotka, hold it by the end of the strings, stretch it like an accordion, and then squeeze the slats together. To produce different rhythms, volumes, and sounds, the music musician can use different levels of force as well as varying the sled's angle to produce different sounds. Fun fact: it is a Russian tradition to play the трещотка at wedding to ward off evil spirits from the bride and groom. Soon after the percussion Russian folk instruments came the wind instruments, clay whistles, pipes, horns, Jalaika Flute. Jalaika, which is also known as the Russian folk clarinet, is one of the most popular Russian wind instruments. Its design consists of a wooden pipe of 10 to 20 centimeters long with between 3 and 7 finger holes to produce different pitches. It also has a single reed that is made of cane or goose feather, and the end of bell is either made of cow horn or birch bark. It was used in the past by shepherds to collect animals because the sound of Jalaika can be heard from a distance of up to 6 kilometers. Rojok, or horn, is another ancient Russian wind instrument that history is thought to date back to the 17th century. The Rojok takes the shape of a straight conical pipe with one thumb hole, 5 finger holes, and a mouthpiece that is cut taking the shape of a small cup. Rojok has several names such as Shepherd's Rojok and Russian Rojok. However, in the late 19th century it became famous for the name Vladimirsky Rojok. This was due to the success of a Rojok choir that came from the Vladimir region. His choir members were all simple shepherds with no prior classical music education. The most unusual old Russian musical instrument is gusli. Gusli is the oldest Russian string-plucking instrument. They are familiar to many people through legends and epic stories. The gosli is known to be the oldest East Slavic multi-string instrument. It belongs to the zither family as the strings are placed horizontally on the body. It's played by plucking by either your fingers or a mediator depending on its size. The sound produced by a gosli is so comforting and calming and was often used as an accompaniment to telling fairy tales. There are several types of gosli instruments with different body shapes and numbers of strings. The most popular are the крыловидные gosli with a wing-shaped body with 4 to 14 strings, the шлемовидные gosli with a helmet-shaped body and 11 to 36 strings. Lastly is the rectangular desktop gosli with its 55-66 strings. In 1914, Fomin created another version of the gosli that uses a keyboard. With this type, the performer plays with his left hand on the keys and plucks the strings with his right hand. Another folk string plucking instrument is balalaika. In the 18th and 19th centuries, balalaika was the most common instrument in Russia. During feasts, people danced, sang songs, and told tales with it. The balalaika is a wooden three-stringed instrument of Russian origin with a characteristic triangular body. The balalaika is played by strumming and plucking with the fingers of the right hand. An important part of balalaika technique is the use of the left thumb to fret notes on the bottom string, where it is often used to form chords. There are many theories about the origins of balalaika.
and how it developed into its triangular shape. In any case, the first written record was in 1688. The balalaika was supposed to be invented by peasant serfs to relieve their hard living under cruel landlords. Gradually, the instrument spread among peasants and skomorohi who traveled all around Russia. This instrument most probably originated from the words to talk, to babble. Musicians would play the balalaika and babble some folk lyrics. It was a rather popular leisure from peasants. At the Exposition Universelle in Paris in 1889, Russia showed not only its achievements in agriculture and science, but also organized a Russian folk orchestra concert. That's how the balalaika became a world-famous Russian instrument and one of the most recognizable symbols of Russia. There are 6 sizes of balalaika: piccola, descant, prima, secondary, alto, bass, and contrabass. These instruments formed the basis of the Great Russian Orchestra, which later toured in many countries of the world to glorify the balalaika and Russian culture. To meet Domra. It is a Russian, Ukrainian, and Belarusian folk string plucking musical instrument.
This instrument is a domra. It comes from Russia and it's actually a domra prima. You do have contrabass domras, which are huge great things. You have the piccolo domra, which is smaller, and you have lots of different types. This is the prima, the standard size. Now, it's a very old instrument supposedly, and this was played by the skomorohi, the wandering minstrels that travelled around Russia many centuries ago. However, in the year 1648, the Tsar decided that all instrumental music was to be banned. And so, cartloads of instruments were brought into the Moskva River and they were burnt there. And the domra became extinct. Now, it was lost for many years, but then in 1896, someone found an old instrument in a barn, and it was assumed to be a domra. And the luthier Vasily Vasilyev Andreev reconstructed it, and the first version was a 3-string domra, but then in 1905 he came up with a 4-string domra, which is this. And it's tuned like a mandolin, so G, D, A, E. It's used in balalaika orchestras, and it's the instrument that generally plays the main tune. And it sounds something like this.
Among the great variety of musical instruments, there is one that can be rightly called a small orchestra. This instrument is the accordion. It is capable of imitating different timbres. It can sound like a flute, clarinet, bassoon, or even an organ.
And welcome to this explanation of this wonderful instrument, which is the chromatic button accordion. This instrument is a member of the squeeze box family. Other members of that family are the concertina, the piano accordion, the Melodion, the bandoneon, and there's probably quite a few more, and each of those have subdivisions, so it's a pretty complex family. But anyway, we're going to deal with this instrument today. So this is what we call a B system chromatic button accordion. There is also a C system, and I'll try and explain the differences between those two as we go along. So this is what we call a free reed instrument. So the way this instrument works is that you open the bellows and shut the bellows, and that causes air to flow across the reeds that are inside. The reeds are little tongues of metal that vibrate, and you get different pitches out of different lengths of reeds. And the way that the air flows over the reeds, well, as you push the bellows in or pull them out, and you press the buttons, then the buttons are attached to levers, and the levers are attached to little bits of wood called pallets, which cover the holes over the reeds. The pallet lifts and the hole is exposed and the air flows through and the reeds vibrate. So it's, it's fairly complex, but it works really well. So the bellows are like your lungs, if you like, when you're singing. Unless you fill your lungs with air, it's very hard to sing. And likewise, if the bellows are completely shut on one of these instruments and you press a button, nothing happens. So the instrument has two basic sides. It has the treble side and the bass side. The treble side is used for playing the tune normally, and the bass side is used for the accompaniment or the backing. So you are kind of a one-man or one-woman band just with one instrument. That's what's really appealing about this instrument. This is what we call a unisonoric instrument. That means to say that when you press a button and you push the bellows closed or pull them open, you get the same note. Now on a Melodion, that's another instrument that I play, you get different notes on the push and the pull for the right hand, and to a certain extent on the left hand as well. So unisonoric, same note in both directions. Now there are 5 rows of buttons on this instrument, okay? 1, I'll call this row the outside row. 2, row 3 I'll call the middle row. Row 4 and row 5 nearest the bellows, nearest these switches, I'll call the inside row. So although there are 5 rows, there are only 3 main rows, and that's because row 1 is duplicated on row 4 and row 2 is duplicated on row 5. If I play some buttons on row 1, keep your eye on row 4, and you'll see the buttons of row 4 go down. And if I play some buttons on row 2, you can see buttons go down on row 5, the inside row. And that's because you have on those rows 2 buttons attached to the same set of reeds to give you alternative playing positions. Row 3, the middle row, is unique because it doesn't have any buttons duplicated anywhere on the instrument. It's probably worth saying that on this instrument, this button here on row 2, because of its extreme position, is not duplicated because there aren't enough buttons to cater for that one on row 5. Let's explain this word chromatic. If you were to sit behind a piano keyboard and play every single note from the left to the right, all the white notes, all the black notes as they occurred left to right, you would be playing in a chromatic way. On a Melodion, that's what we call a diatonic instrument, where you have notes that are specific to certain scales, normally major scales, sometimes minor scales. On this instrument you have, if you like, every note that we have in Western music arranged in kind of a next door neighbour fashion. So the wonderful thing about this instrument, of course, is that in this short span of instrument, which is about 13 inches on this instrument, you've got 37 different notes. You'd need about 21 inches on a piano keyboard to get the same notes, and of course you wouldn't have any duplications. So that makes this, you know, fairly unique and obviously very, very useful. You've got 37 different notes. Okay, even though you've got 61 buttons that play notes, you've actually got 62 buttons. This one down here is a dummy. It's just there to make the rows look even, but it doesn't make a sound. It's not attached to any reeds at all. So as I say, 61 different buttons on this side that make sound, and of course with the duplications, you've actually got 37 different notes. That's, you know, that's a fair range of notes, isn't it? That actually is a 3-octave range. You've got a G down here, which is the G below middle C, and you go up to the G, which is 3 octaves above that. So as I say, a fair range of notes, isn't it?
Today we've visited Russian folk musical instruments, and we have another journey ahead of us. At our next lesson we will go into the wonderful world of the orchestra. We will find out who the conductor is, what kinds of orchestras are, and what instruments an orchestra consists of. See you again, friends!